Okay, finally doing another Republic comic. Hopefully there will be much less static, though probably not because my microphone hates me. But yeah, so I'm gonna be reviewing the Kamino arc of Dark Horse Comics, issues 49 and 50, which are actually, if you think, well, technically, for Republic, it's the fourth and fifth issues, I believe. But that's a very different thing because the book was written in the Republic, uh, halfway through. But yeah, so the first arc, which is the Kamino arc, uh, and I believe the main stories of both issues are written by Ostrander. Yeah, both are written by Ostrander and art by Jan Durasama. Uh, though the second issue does have actually three stories within it, which is really good. I'll get into that. But this book just does a fantastic job. I think the Dark Horse comics are probably my favorite thing from the Clone Wars era and favorite just interpretation of the war. I think it's better than the 2D show. I think it's better than the 3D show. The novels I don't think are as good. The games are good, but not as fantastic. Like these are, I think, in my opinion, just the perfect embodiment of why that era is so great. Um, but yeah, so this arc begins with Kalia, I think is her name. I always forget. Quinlan Voss's Colleen. Uh, having stolen, being on this thing called the Wheel, which is a really cool place, which I wish was brought back more often. I really hope that's canon in some way because I actually really love that location. It's this giant space station, and think Window V, I think from the Lost Missions in the Clone Wars, but even bigger and in the middle of space, not around a single planet. But she's stolen a hologram from from a Falleen, and is trying to transport it to Quinlan, and is on the run. And then we find out that Ayla Sakura has been dispatched to find her master and bring him either back to the Jedi or just to get an update on what's happening. And you just get some really nice scenes about, some conversations about what the Jedi's role is supposed to be because there's a few months into the war, or well, actually I think it's like a month into the war, and we'll give a scene of like Thulm, Yoda, and Mace just talking and them discussing how some of them don't want to come back. Like some Jedi don't want to come back to Coruscant to be dispatched to the war. Some of them are really pissed about this. They're supposed to be peacekeepers, but at the same time they'd be essentially abandoning the Republic, which is just going to cause more destruction. All those classic conversations that you get from this era, and what's great is it's just the beginning of that kind of conversation. Like that's kind of the consistent thing throughout the entirety of the book. But the first issue does a really good job of just kind of as far as I can remember, I don't think there is a single clone in the entire issue. It's just underground stuff. Like it's just dealing with the underworld, which is really really cool to see that. And again, it just showcases Ayla Sakura being, ever the badass, and being resourceful and everything. Like there's a great scene where this Falleen's trying to use his pheromones. Which again, great to see Falleens, great to see them actually using their Falleen, great to see them actually doing their, being mobster people and seeing them do their pheromone stuff. Just really good sense of continuity in this book. Like hell, you get one of those. This is how I wish more Star Wars things would be, because so often in these stories you have like, oh look, this thing from from the movies. Like every single book, every single species in this comic, actually in both issues, are existing are things existing in the Star Wars universe previously. So they're all species that have already existed, and none of it feels like, look, remember this thing from episode 4? Hell, for God's sakes, we have a Dianaga at one point, and it makes sense. It's not just like if this was in the current Star Wars books, not to hate on those, I do enjoy a lot of them, but if this was in one of the current Star Wars books, especially one of the Jason Aaron things, it would probably have went like, look, it's a Dianoga. Look, remember this from episode 4. Remember this from episode 4. What a wonderful spell you discovered. Line quote, line pull, and it gets in your face. Here, you have have a Dianoga, but it makes a lot of sense because they're on a space station, hiding in the sewers. You're gonna meet one. That's the entire reason there was one on the Death Star. It doesn't just feel like convenient, reference for the sake of reference. It fits. It's there for the sake of reference, but it fits within the larger world. The Faline's there, but he utilizes his pheromones. It's not just, I guess Falines are from the EU, not from the movie. So there's one EU, but you know what I mean. Like, it's all pre-existing things. It feels like it's that's what's great about Ostrander. He really does a great job of playing within the Star Wars universe, really successfully, and it's fantastic. And so you have Ayla facing off against this Faline, and he's trying to manipulate her with pheromones, and then, like, how she fights back, she's like, your will is mine. Or he's like, your will is mine. No, I'm a Jedi, my will is my own. And she just cuts him down. It's like, it was... Like, it's great to just see, Jedi being Jedi. Like, you have this epic war going on, but it's important to also establish the moral conflicts a lot of Jedi have, where Ayla is just the perfect Jedi. While in a lot of ways, Quinlan is still struggling. Like, it's a great conversation they have. Don't let yourself be swallowed up by them, Quinn. There has to be a difference between us and them, us and those we fight. We are Jedi, and we must remain Jedi. And what if we lose? If more of us die, then we lose and die, and we are still Jedi. It's like you just get like seriously just 3 panels. It's a brief conversation, but it perfectly establishes all the moral stuff you need to do. Like it's really the entire issue just exists to get the Jedi a holocron from letting them know that the reveal at the end, which is, it's revealed in the middle, and then at the end we reveal that Dooku and Palpatine actually know about the whole time, that the Republic knows about it, which is that the Separatists are about to attack Kamino. Because this is really early in the war, and, like, that's really, really awesome. That, like, you get an early establishment of, how the Jedi are functioning, how they're up in this war. So they make a really good issue that establishes a lot of character stuff and moral quandaries, without it necessarily being super plotty. It's just there to get a plot point across, and then to set up some thematic elements, and that's really fantastic and quite awesome. But so then we get to the second issue, issue 50, which this is one of my favorite issues from the entire book, because the first part, Brother in Arms, is like has Anakin having a nightmare or something about, having a vision of Obi-Wan getting turned in the battle to come, and you kind of have Anakin just meditating by working on a droid, which is how this part of the story is framed. Just him working on a droid and trying to meditate, kind of, and Obi-Wan be like, no, we have to go to a briefing. You have a briefing with lots of, again, like pre-existing Jedi or pre-existing species of with Jedi. You have Narcissus, you have the Kaminoans, you have Neem, like I think you have Weequay in the background. Like, it's nice to just see a good establishment of continuity again. But so the Jedi are kind of strategizing about the upcoming attack, and again, you have this epic battle. It's building up this epic battle, but it's still doing a lot of character stuff. Where Obi-Wan says, again, this is why I prefer this to the 2D show, because in the 2D show, Anakin wants to lead the forces, like the Air Forces and stuff like that, because he's the best pilot. And Obi-Wan and Yoda are like, nope, because we need to set up conflict. And Obi-Wan's just like, no, you check your privilege, Anakin. And then, like, Palpatine, is like, oh, no, let him do it. And then, of course, Obi-Wan and Yoda are just like, we're all suspicious, even though we really shouldn't be. He's just being overzealous about Anakin's abilities. There's no real reason to speculate. It's kind of really, really on the nose. Dun, dun, dun. But here, because Anakin is their best pilot. Sure, he's reckless and everything, but Obi-Wan Kenobi's the kind of person who will have a conversation with Anakin about that. Not somebody who will just say, like, know your place, Anakin. And so you kind of get that here, where he asks Anakin to stay there instead of going into the battle. And Anakin's like, I'm the best pilot, I should be out there. And everyone's like, oh no, there's too much turmoil in you. And you see, because it's just a month after the events of episode 2, that you see him killing the his fight with Dooku and everything with Padme and his mother's death and killing the Sand People and stuff. And then you kind of see, he is in emotional turmoil, and there's a really nice contrasted scene between Voss and Obi-Wan talking and discussing their Padawans, and Obi-Wan talking about how he's being a little too harsh on Anakin, but how he feels like he's failing him because he does trust, he should trust him, and he wishes he could trust himself, to trust Anakin, but he needs to have some faith in him. And Quinlan and him are just having a conversation about that. And we cut to Anakin having a conversation with, Anakin's still trying to fix a droid, and we get a scene that really establishes just, again, how awesome having a large amount of Jedi rather than just one or two at a time really is. Because Ayla and Anakin have a really, really nice scene of, they talk about how both of them, since they're more mechanically minded, she's talking about how she also uses fixing stuff as a form of meditation. And Anakin talking about how his mind isn't clear and how he feels like nobody trusts him. And her say, maybe things aren't always that they ought to be. Let me trust. And then she just smacks the droid, and it all of a sudden works. She's old mechanics trick. The secret, Anakin, is to know when a thing is fixed and to leave it alone. And it's like I love how they sum up, a lot of stuff like Anakin's turmoil. It's really good to see so many different masters hanging out with Anakin rather than just having him and Obi-Wan in a room, because he still has a lot to learn to do. And while Obi-Wan and him are really close and Obi-Wan's a lot, personal, he still does have his own problems. He's learning just as much from training with Anakin as Anakin is from him. And so it's nice to see how, possibly had Ayla been a little older and been able to be his master and Obi-Wan not made that vow to Qui-Gon, who knows, if she had been his master, things could have turned out differently and stuff like that. Like, you kind of see, since they're both, Padawans of, Quinlan and Obi-Wan, like, kind of contrast Quinlan and Obi-Wan going through the same thing, or having to both have dealt with the same problems with their Padawans, and Anakin and Ayla have both dealt with the same issues emotionally themselves. And it's really nice to see, just parallels. Like, that's what's great about having the Jedi be a community rather than just one Jedi left at a time. But yeah, so then they get an alarm, and the Separatists attack, and then Obi-Wan says to Anakin that they need him, that Obi-Wan needs him to be, helping with him in the attack. And he finally, realizes he does trust Anakin, and he has to let Anakin know that. And it's really nice to see, actual true growth for these characters throughout the war. And, just interpersonal stuff. But, yeah, so we see something I really like, which is the idea that the Jedi are primarily the only ones with starfighters at this point, because the clones do have vehicles, but as far as I can remember, I think only the V-19s were the ones that were made on Kamino. I think the rest of the fighters might have actually been primarily made, other than gunships. I don't think there's many starfighters the clones had, because I think ARC 170s were actually created by a separate company, as were Y-Wings. I might be wrong, but I think that's how that is. But yeah, so then you have a really cool sequence of just two squadrons of Jedi starfighters, just showing how talented the Jedi are as, starfighter pilots, because we rarely see that. They are really good starfighter pilots. And so you just get to see a really, really fun, exciting battle sequence after some nice character scenes, and Obi-Wan being awesome and crashing his ship, and then Anakin trying to save him, and shoving his ship down the throat of an alien, of a giant monster thing. There's some really nice action set pieces in this comic, and then I'm getting attacked by fish things. And again, after the exciting action scene, you just have a nice personal moment between Anakin and Obi-Wan talk. They're about to talk a little bit, and then of course they end up getting saved and bonk off. And then you have Jango's Legacy, the second part, which shows that they're losing a lot of stuff. A lot of their Jedi have been killed or captured. And that Shakti you find out about the ARC troopers, which is the first time we've ever seen them. They were trained specifically by Jango, and Ayla goes to save some clones and meets the ARC troopers, and specifically Alpha. And Alpha is a really important, major character to this comic, and essentially he's the character Rex was supposed to be, but they decided to change. And I think that's for the better that he's not Alpha, just because Rex is a very different character than Alpha. Alpha, is very much just about following orders, so it doesn't make sense why he would be Alpha. But yeah, so like we immediately start to showcase kind of the difference between a clone who's completely free thinking and a Jedi, where like he's all shocked because, or like he's kind of snarky, he's just responding to the Jedi, getting openly rather than being kind of a loyal soldier, and it's like, oh, I expected more from the Jedi. You're just sitting around talking in the middle of a fight, and like you kind of get a nice little contrast between the Jedi and the clones. And then, like, I love when he's about to freaking murder all the clones who are still growing in their pods, just because, oh, it was our orders to make sure that nobody would get their hands on the clones. And then the Jedi are like, no, we have to find another way. And they do. And again, I really like that, just setting up how brutal Alpha is, where, he doesn't necessarily value life as much as it's just, we serve the Republic, but he doesn't seem to understand fully what the Republic's ideals are necessarily. But then we get the third part, and the final part, which is No End in Sight, where we have Mon Calamari, which are in charge of the attack, the Separatist side of the attack. And they're, starting to lose, and so the captain, goes down in his ship to, that can both go underwater and fly, and, goes down to the planet to make sure that his troops can get away, essentially, and Well, they go to attack and destroy the generator, and then they realize what I'm guessing was Palpatine having lied to them so that the clone army wouldn't get destroyed. But, so, to give the Republic kind of a big, yeah, we saved Kamino kind of thing. And, I think it is, the commander and his people on this, I think it's called the Shark, their ship, and, he tells his people, get out of here, and essentially he sacrifices himself, or gives them cover or whatever. And it's really nice to see. Or, well, no, sorry, it's a little confusing because there's so many splash pages that what's happening gets a little confused. But no, so he's telling them to keep fighting, and he's like, we're gonna keep getting in, and he gets destroyed in this epic full page, top of a full page spread of the ship crashing. Oh, no, he does tell them to retreat, and so he smashes the final, because he has the final of those aquatic ships, and he smashes it right into the Jedi hyperspace rings so that they can't track the Separatist ships when they go into hyperspace. Which is, it's really nice to see honor amongst the Separatists and Separatist troops that aren't just droids. And again, stuff like that's really, really awesome. And I love when we find out that Dooku seems to think that, Palpatine is trying to help the Separatists actually win, while we realize that, each issue ends with kind of a scene between Dooku and, Palpatine. Here it's, a shame what happened to Kamino, or what happened over Kamino. Muriel was talented. There were other talented men who would be more easily turned to our purposes. It's a delicate game we play, a precise balance. The balance has been restored, though. The Separatist advantage lies dead in the water. With Muriel dead, Kamino still operational. Well, this clone war will not end soon. I love that Palpatine and Dooku are trying to give the Republic an advantage. I love that they orchestrate this whole attack just to sabotage. And they let the Republic find out early, and even though they find out that the Republic has been informed, they still let the Republic win, just to create an advantage. I love how you see just how no matter what the Republic grand victory is just a manipulation. Every Separatist victory just a manipulation. Everything is controlled by Palpatine. His tendrils are everywhere. The Jedi are slowly falling apart. Even when they win, it's really just a loss. And you kind of get a sense of just how hopeless the Clone Wars are. Because even this, epic, yay, the Republic won, a big battle finally. Because I believe Geonosis came down as a Republic victory. I think Geonosis was a Republic victory, because this is, right afterwards, I would think, yeah, it was a Republic victory, but then the next battle of the Clone War is that, what was the next Clone Wars war? Oh yeah, it was, the Battle of, not Sereno, it was Raxus Prime. And that was a Separatist victory. Then this is, I think, like the third big battle, or maybe fourth. And of course, this goes to the Republic again, and the Separatists lose any chance they had of defeating Kamino. And so, like, you see how much of this war is just a grand manipulation, which is really good, just to establish that really quickly into your series and show just how in control Palpatine is. And of course, just set up character stuff for Anakin, set up how a bunch of different Jedi interact, get some nice personal scenes for characters like Aayla Secura, who fans really like. Like, it's just, I love how not fan servicey, but like the perfect balance between a mainstream person could pick up this comic and understand what's happening, and a diehard fan could completely, would love the hell out of it and a lot of its references. And some of like the reference to the background, a casual fan or a slightly bigger than casual but not super massive fan could still pick up. I'm like, this is how you do a Star Wars. But I think it's still the definitive example. Dark Horse still is just perfect, especially this series in particular. Anything Ostrander has done is really the perfect example of, what a Star Wars book should be. But yeah, the Kamino arc is fantastic. I guess quickly I should compare it to the other Kamino arc. I think it's interesting how the TCW did its own Kamino arc. Yet I think both of them are great on their own for very different reasons. That showed the braveness and kind of the clones in a light, the independence of the clones very much, but in an optimistic light, and kind of like, how, like, brave, soldiers who are willing to do anything for the Republic and stuff like that, and to protect their home and everything. While here, I like how you get a bunch of clones protecting, other, clone troopers and doing everything they can, while, here you see Alpha, who's completely pragmatic. And as much as I like the Dark Horse stuff, I will say the clones themselves are so much better in TCW. Because I like Alpha, but he's just, like, all the clones are either completely personal, have no personality, or are totally pragmatic. And so it's nice to see some clones who are very personal and emotional. Like, it's really cool that both arcs are kind of counter to each other, but both establish different things for their shows, or for their stories that they're within. Like, which version of the war are you seeing, and both kind of showcase perfectly the differences between the two. Yeah, also just really good arc. If somebody can get their hands on this, it's collected in the Omnibus. It's collected in Volume 1 of the smaller trades. It's issues 49 and 50. And especially, at the very least, get issue 50, because issue 50 is really, really good. And very important, obviously, for setting up this entire conflict, the how the war's handled in the comics. And yeah, I just heavily recommend if someone can get their hands on this, definitely do so. It's really good and showcases exactly why this comic is so renowned by Star Wars fans. So yeah,